Macbeth.
Yeah.
Now, it was quite popular in London, but the critics weren't too...
No, yeah, went down with the punters, but not with the critics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did that sort of bother you at all?
Well, of course, yeah, nobody likes to be slagged off.
Yeah.
I suppose it didn't surprise me enormously. Macbeth famously is one of those plays where, you know, I had a chat with Ian McKellen about it, a bit of name dropping for you, and because he'd come to the theatre for a memorial for Peter Shaffer. We were having a chat, and I said, "Oh, I'm going to do Macbeth," and I saw one of McKellen's Macbeths in Stratford when I was a kid. And he said, "Oh, great, which theatre are you doing it in?" And I said, "The Olivier," and I won't repeat what he said because you know, it's on video, but he said, "Why are you doing that?" and he said, "You've got to do it in a small theatre." This play is on the syllabus of almost every school in the country. If I put it in the Dorfman Theatre, we'd sell it out in 5 minutes. But almost none of the people who would want to see it would be able to see it. So the challenge was always going to be how to do it on a big stage, and I think those critics want to see it. They want to see it in a small theatre where it's close up. It is a very intimate play in some ways. I'm not sure that they were enamoured of the contemporary setting. I think they that's not something that they respond to. And maybe I could have established the context for that in a slightly clearer way for them. But it becomes second guessing. In the end, I loved working on it. I felt very proud of the production, and I was very relieved to see that audiences kept coming, and it did really well. And NT Live likewise did very well.
Yeah, the set was once described it as dystopian recycling plant, didn't it? Something
well,
like that.
Yeah, I think there were a few comments like that, but in a way you think, well, what do we think it would look like out there after 10 years of civil war? That's exactly what it would feel like. You know, if you go to slums anywhere in the world, or you know, into a war zone or a post-conflict environment, everything is recycled. That's the environment that very quickly becomes normality.
Now, it's a play about passion and ambition and power. And do you think it's relevant to modern society? Right?
Very much. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we look around at the leaders now. If you see what happened after Brexit, and the backstabbing and the number of leaders that fell in everybody's scrapping around going, okay, we didn't think that was going to happen, so what are we going to do about it? And now we've got the world leader, Trump, who's completely rewriting the book of how to get ahead and stay ahead, and a member of his administration goes down every week, and you don't know what's going on there, but somehow he's managing to keep going. I think it's very relevant, and I think people are, particularly young people now, are more politicised than they have been. I think, for better or worse, people are engaged with what's gone on in this country and further afield.
To go on to a slightly link point about young people, art, music, drama in schools is something you're very passionate about, isn't it? And it isn't happening. I mean, do you think it is really important?
Yeah, I do. I think it's profoundly important. It's interesting. I do have the opportunity to advocate a little bit. I occasionally get the opportunity to bend the ear of politicians and people who make decisions. That's a tricky task, and it's particularly tricky if they're embedded in a certain way of thinking about it. I'm not, I think the arts are great for all kinds of aspects of a healthy life. But all of those arguments I put to one side. The only argument I'm making to government is economic. Our creative industries are hugely important to this country, fastest growing sector. There'll be 92 billion we put into the economy last year. For every £1 of subsidy, they get £5 back in tax. It's bigger than the oil, gas, life sciences put together. People don't think about that because they don't know it. You think, oh, the arts are just... But it's absolutely massive. And if you look at the way the world is going, the rise of these tech companies, all of whom are invented by and driven by people who can think out of the box, think creatively. For me, arts and education is not about bringing up a generation of people who can, who can paint beautifully or play the violin or will even go to the theatre. That's not important. It's important that they understand their own power, that they can stand up, express themselves, and most importantly, take initiative, respond to the opportunities that come to them. We've got to be really creative now, particularly, the world is changing anyway, but particularly in this post-Brexit world where we've got to be inventing new relationships and new trade relationships. And one thing that we, for some reason, seem to have as a country, as a bunch of islands, is a creativity. If you look all over the creative industries, whether it's film or fashion or music, tech, all over the world, in all of those companies, they're populated by Brits, because there's something about this country that breeds that, and to just limit that to enable it in private schools and top universities and nowhere else is, for me, it's totally shocking. Yeah, I do feel very strongly about it.
I've noticed that, and probably one of the best players the world has ever seen is probably Shakespeare. So you're bringing Shakespeare to the people.
Yeah, I mean he's the bedrock of our culture.
And this Theatre Nation partnership, what does that involve?
Well, what that involves is this is a new initiative, and it partly comes out of Brexit. For me, Brexit was obviously it was a vote about membership of the European Union, but it was also a protest vote about inequality of opportunity and imbalance. There's an anti-globalisation undertow to it, breakup of community everywhere. I interviewed people all over the country because we did a project called My Country immediately following the Brexit vote, and certain things. So we just listened, and certain things really came through. So what's been important for us as an organisation following that is to really look at the fact that we're called a national theatre, look at the national part of our title, and see how we're earning that and whether we are or not. This last year we've toured more than at any time in the theatre's history. 65% of our audiences were outside London last year. That for me is heading in the right direction. The Theatre Nation partnerships are about taking that a step further. So we're working with 5 or 6 areas that have perhaps been overlooked in terms of arts provision, or where there's a hunger for it, but also where there are people, where there are key leaders who we get on with and who we feel we can work with. It's always about people. It's always about finding an organisation that's got somebody dynamic leading it who goes, yeah, let's do something. And so yes, it's touring shows to Wolverhampton or to Doncaster, to Nottingham, various other places, Salford, but it's also working with the schools, to take work into schools and to link that up, and I hope over the next few years we will embed and deepen those relationships, offer what support we can, learn what we can, also about what the rest of the country is talking about, what they're interested in, what they want of us. It's very much a two-way exchange. Everybody talks about London being a bubble, or this Facebook bubbles, or this organisation or that. It's a way for us to break out of that and really try and, like I say, we're supposed to be a national theatre, so let's be national.
Right. Thank you.